You're listening to the Creative Capital Podcast. You're dying to learn about how you can create wealth through real estate investing? Then you've come to the right place. Join in every week as we go over the ins and outs of real estate investing and learn how you too can become financially free. What's going on, everybody? This is Josh Ferrari, host of the Creative Capital Podcast. And we've got a really exciting show today because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there has been a lot of competition enter into the market, whether it's multifamily, whether it's single family, flipping, wholesaling. There has been a lot of real estate investors or people that weren't real estate investors that want to be one now enter into the market. We've even seen people that are primarily in retail or primarily in office or whatever it is, they are rolling over into markets or niches like multifamily and like the residential side of real estate. And it's making cap rates compress. It's making prices go way up, higher than they really should be. And we've even seen things like you have to have earnest money hard on day one just to even be considered as a legitimate buyer. So we know that the market is getting competitive. And so today we get to talk with Tyler Bynum, who really dives into what he's seeing, first of all, in the market, the different things he's seeing because he's out there in Texas, and then how he's seen other syndicators and other investors really get creative, not only on the buy side, as far as actually acquiring the deal, submitting these offers. And, he said he had one guy that bought the seller a watch. Bought the seller a nice watch. And I won't give all of his tidbits away because you guys are just going to have to check out the episode. But we dive into that. We dive in why he even decided to be a broker out of all the different options you could have chosen, like what he was seeing that made him really decide to jump into that niche. And the big question, that a lot of people ask is what will actually get the attention of a broker? So we dive into a few other things. We don't talk just specifically about market and the competition and how to stay competitive in this changing market, but also a few other things that are broker specific. And I know for me and for a lot of people that have asked me, they all want to know, how do you build that credibility? How do you get those off-market deals? How do you gain the trust? And so he really dives into that, and you guys will be able to hear that as well. And just a ton of other things. I won't give any more spoilers away. You guys are just going to have to listen to this episode because Tyler is an amazing dude. He's even got a drone videography company that he now uses to just what he used to charge people for. Now he just uses that to add value to all of his sellers and buyers, just taking drone footage and other aspects, like creating videos for the OM, or like if he's got a buyer coming in, he'll create a video for their offering packet that they're sending to their investors. And he's just really a creative guy. And so I'm super stoked that for you guys to be able to hear this. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. Hey, what's going on, Tyler? It's so good to have you out on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I am stoked about today's show because it's near and dear to my heart currently because the market is so competitive right now. I mean, even over the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen a ton of people kind of roll over into enter into the multifamily space. And so cap rates have begun compressing, even in these secondary and tertiary markets, especially during COVID, when that's kind of where the migration's headed. I'm super stoked to talk about this topic today and to have you on with us. So for those out there that don't really know who you are and what you do, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what got you interested in investing in real estate.
Yeah, I'm a broker in multifamily space in Dallas, Texas, focused kind of all over Texas, but we are housed here in Dallas. So got me into it. I've been in the industry for about 6 years on the accounting side, did accounting on the property management side, did accounting for retail, industrial, office, honestly, pretty much every asset class but multifamily. Accounting was a great way to learn how the money comes and flows through a building, and great. But to be honest, I'm not an accounting personality. I absolutely hated that role, but it was just a great way to learn. And I wanted to be on the relationship side of the business and decided to hop over to brokerage. And here I am now.
Yeah. And I remember reading your bio, you had mentioned that you also did like drone videography or something of that sort. Like, what's that all about? And then how do you think that has kind of helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah. So I started drones 7 years ago, I think, kind of when the first one came out. We would use it for surfing or wakeboarding or snowboarding or, whatever kind of adventurous thing that we were trying to do. When I got in the real estate world, I started transitioning that kind of more of my side hustle that everyone says try to get, doing that on the side, working for other brokers. Broker would hire me to come film and blah, blah, blah. And I realized that, I was making these good videos, and some of these time my videos were selling these brokers' properties without them having to do much. And so I was like, well, I need to stop doing this for other people and go get my license and try to keep doing that for myself. So that's how it started. But now I barely even charge people to do it at this point. I kind of use it as a tool, like you said, it's a very competitive market, even for us brokers, right? We're trying to find the next seller, the next buyer, everything. I use it as a value add tool to say, let me come and film your property. Whether it's marketing or you need to send it to your investors or whatnot. And, let me add value to you instead of just trying to sell you to get a listing on the deal, and I can develop those relationships by coming in and using that drone and the video skills to build the relationship. And maybe in the future, I'll be the one hired as a broker later on. So it's kind of how I utilize that at the moment.
I love that you took that and decided, hey, we're not just going to charge people for this anymore, since things are getting a little bit more competitive, and it's going to be free. We're just going to go in, and we might get the listing, we might not, but either way it goes, I'll still be providing value, and I'll still be kind of top of mind with this person, because not everyone's just giving away free services. If you're that guy and everyone knows you as the drone guy, then you're going to be the one that they come after, whether they're needing drone footage or brokerage, since that's kind of your main gig.
Yep.
So why did you decide to become a broker? Out of all the opportunities and different niches and options that there are inside of real estate to create wealth, why a broker?
To be honest, it was kind of a hard thing I struggled with for a bit, because I'm not really the sales mentality that you see on the whole Wolf of Wall Street, pick up the phone, call, and that's the mentality that a lot of people think that brokers have. But when I realized, I got under a good mentor that realized that's not really what it's about. That can help in some ways, but my accounting background kind of helps a lot. A lot of brokers are so focused on the sales aspect that not a lot of them really have that numbers background, to where I kind of utilize that to my advantage and say, hey, I'll be able to underwrite your property. I can dive into your expenses. I can maybe see things that other brokers might not be able to see, and we can figure out how to help prepare your property for market. So I see myself as more of a consultant of helping someone get their property ready to sell, not so much just the broker that gets hired to sell it, if that makes sense. And so that's kind of building that relationship through the process is kind of why I chose to hop on this side of it. And at the same time, being a broker, we see countless amount of deals and how they're structured, put together. And my end game is, maybe I'm not a broker in 5-10 years from now, but, maybe it will help me to be able to be on the ownership side or on the investing side later on, knowing all these different creative ways that deals are put together. So right. I like to see it more of a stepping stone at the moment, not an end goal.
Okay. So what's the end goal?
The next immediate step would be, I'd like to start being able to invest with the buyers, right? I want to find listings that I truly believe are good deals. And I want to maybe be able to roll up some of my commissions passively and into the deal, start getting involved that way. And then from there, maybe eventually might try to syndicate my own one day. Or I've always been a huge fan of development. I've liked development since I was a little kid. I've loved construction. So would love to develop a property one day.
Awesome. So now, are you primarily on the selling side or the buying side, or do you do kind of both?
I'll do both. Primary selling. The Texas market, I'm sure it's the same in a lot of states right now, but as we know, Texas is extremely hot market, and you can be on the buy side all day, but you're going to be running around trying to find, it's not the best way to spend your time. The listings and trying to find out who is selling and being represented by this, or being able to represent the sellers, a better use of the time here. On the buy side, you can easily go hunt deals for people, but I'm not too sure how it is there. The Texas market, as far as the commission base, that's mainly just protected by the seller. We're starting to see more and more buyers hire brokers to find deals, just because the market is getting more and more competitive, that they need that extra help and be willing to pay a broker to bring them a deal. But it's kind of slowly transitioning to that at this point.
So are you typically having a lot of buyers, like investors, coming to you asking for deals? Or,
oh, yeah.
I love that. And I want to touch base on that, because that's probably one of the biggest questions that I have a lot of people ask, or that people want to know about, is how do you get to build like that reputation? And how do you get those juicy off-market deals that you guys are finding that are, like the cream of the crop? What do you think investors can do, or what do you like that investors do when they come to you asking for deals?
Yeah. So two things I guess that I could touch on is one of them is we currently just got done listing 985 unit portfolio, which is huge. So a good way to build that relationship is for an off market deal is now I have buyers that have come to me and that I've dealt with, that I've toured on the listed property that I like for some reason or another. Maybe they're just a good person. Maybe I felt like they're a strong buyer. Maybe they're just fun to hang out with. There's different reasons, and being able to work through them with that listed deal. Maybe they didn't win that deal, but now they have a spot in my mind for when that off-market opportunity comes. I was like, you know what? I really like working with that guy. I'm going to send him this one. He didn't get to win the last one. So that's one way. Get involved on some listed deals and build that relationship with the broker, whether or not that you're potentially going to win the deal or not. Just get your foot in the door and get the conversation rolling. And then another one would be, I always like to tell people, be more specific when you're talking to a broker on what you're looking for. I get calls all day long. They'll be like, I'm looking for anywhere between 100 to 350 units all over the state of Texas. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you along with the other 1,000 people I talked to last month. So the more specific you can get with your goals and what you're looking for, then that's how a broker will remember you. It's like, okay, don't stick with that broad range all over Texas or whatever state that you're working in, or I'm willing to buy anything from 1970 to 2015. Get more specific with what your goal is, what your niche is, how you're going to add value to the property. And then that way that broker will know that that's the deal for you when they come across it. That's big, because when you stay broad, you get put into a buying category with a bunch of other people that are broad. And so then at that point, to be honest, my job is to represent my seller. And so we could have the best relationship possible, but my job is to send that deal to who I know is going to pay the highest price. So then at that point, it just becomes a capital thing. And so if it's basically, in my opinion, it's be specific, or if you want to be broad, you better have the capital to kind of back it up and be able to prove that. So then that way you are the guy that they send it to. That's some kind of, do you have any other questions? Maybe I'm trying to kind of touch on some things that might help regarding that.
I think you covered most of it, man. And I harp on that a lot as far as exactly what you just said about be specific. That's what we did when we first started, and we didn't have that track record. We didn't have a ton of success behind us, but we had, the guys that I was partnered with, they had experience, just not in multifamily. They had like a decade of experience in flipping houses or whatever. One of them had done a couple of single family portfolios. So it was like they had some real estate business experience, but we needed to really niche down, just like what you said, into what we wanted. And so we niched so far down into just one market. We're like, we're just at Mobile, just looking for 30 to 150 unit deals, only up to $5 million, have to be B and C class, like have to be this. And so then when we were talking to people, just like you said, talking to people and telling people that, that's very specific. So now when they find a deal that meets that criteria, like, bam, I remember that guy that wanted exactly that. So, I mean, you pretty much covered all of that. So now I really wanted to get into the meat of this episode here. And I wanted to ask, just tell us about what you're seeing in the market. I know you're out there in Texas. So tell us give us a broad overview of what maybe the market was pre-COVID to what is happening now post-COVID.
Yeah, I mean, pre-COVID, I've only been a broker for almost 2 years. So it takes a year to even get in, even as a buyer, almost anything in commercial real estate. It takes a good year to get a footprint in what you're doing, no matter what line of work you're in this industry. So I just felt like I was getting a roll in things, and then COVID hit, and it was just a straight freeze. No one knew how to underwrite. Banks didn't even know what to do. Freddie and Fannie didn't know what to do. So everything pretty much just froze for 2 quarters. And that's kind of how I stepped my drone stuff up and kept things going during that time. But when it came back really fast. And for instance, we have 1,000 units under contract right now in Houston. That happened really fast. We're getting, kind of talk about the last subject, we get calls every day from people from California, New York, some of them maybe not so real estate, political climate friendly states are flooding states like Texas, Florida, Arizona, Alabama, the Sun Belt areas. And we're getting calls every day from people trying to place money here, whether it's 1031, whether it's just capital they've had saved up for the past year or two. There's been a big influx of buyers, but the sellers are kind of hard to find right now. Some people have gotten hit because of COVID, but in Dallas, it's pretty fair, pretty protected. So all the properties are still cash flowing pretty good. And so they're not really at a place where they need to sell, when a lot of these New York, California buyers might think that maybe in their market, there is sellers that are struggling a little bit more, but the struggle hasn't hit here that hard. So it's pretty tough to find people willing to sell at this point, just because they're comfortable where they're at, unless it was written in their plan, and they're at their 5-year hold or whatnot. But that's kind of what we're seeing. And then there's a lack of inventory on the market right now. So when something does hit the market, things are extremely competitive. And we're seeing offers like just all over the place of just creative little things to do. A big thing in Texas is hard earnest money day one, which is crazy to a lot of buyers, especially if you don't know what market you're getting into. But that's how to win a deal. I mean, that really is. The broker will tell you what you need. Not always, you don't have to put some crazy amount of money down hard won, but just something to show that you mean business and that you have skin in the game and you have faith in your ability to close will go a long ways. You don't even have to be the top offer if you have hard earnest money day one. Sometimes a seller is going to go with your offer could be in third place, but if you have that aspect of it, you might get picked. So that to me is a big plus right there. And if you're not sure on what to offer, then talk to the broker. They'll tell you. The hard earnest money has nothing to do with the purchase price, right? That has nothing to do with their commissions. They don't get rewarded in that. They just have a conversation and just say, do I need 1% down? Can I put 20K down on this deal, 10K, just something? Just talk to them and engage with them, and they should be able to guide you on what would help position your offer a little better.
I'm pretty much seeing the same thing down here in Mobile, the secondary, tertiary market that didn't really have a lot of outside eyes on it previous to COVID. It was just, we were seeing like 6 to 8 caps on BC class properties. And now they're like closer to 6 for the C and 5 or 4 for the B. And it's like, what the heck? Where did all this money come from?
Yeah.
And like, just like you said, it's so competitive that we're having to get extremely creative just on underwriting, not even like submitting deals or submitting offers, but on actually saying, okay, we could submit this offer and it could be this great offer, but how are we going to actually operate the asset? Like the last decade, you could have been Joe Blow getting into multifamily and you could have bought anything and you'd have done great. It would have done amazing. You could have sat back, property manager, handle everything, and you're good to go. Obviously, there's probably a little exaggeration there, but basically it's kind of what we saw a lot in the past. Now that things are tightening up, there's a lot of changes. The competition's getting much more difficult. You got all these COVID reserves. You got all these new factors that didn't used to be in multifamily. Yep. Now you really got to operate. You have to be a legitimate syndicator, like a great operator, and know how to streamline your property management, how to streamline the expenses. We've been talking with water conservationist companies and with figuring out what we can do with the cost seg, figuring out what we can do on utility paybacks with the tenants and all this other stuff. That's like, okay, what can we do to really zero in on expenses? There's obviously not a lot we're going to be able to do on income with all of the uncertainty and with just the price that we're having to buy it at. So love all of that. So how are you, other than needing to go hard with the earnest money on day one, how are you seeing buyers create the competitive edge? What are some of those creative offers you said that you're seeing that maybe are winning some deals?
For instance, we had an offer that, we had a client who loves the sale. And our buyer knew that, looked him up. Podcast, social media is powerful, right? You can kind of figure out if you're in real estate, most of the time, you're going to be somewhere online, somewhere at this point. Find out what someone likes. The guy sent our client a really, really nice Garmin watch, with a letter about traveling and sailing. And that spoke to our client. Not saying don't bribe someone all the time with a gift, but what I meant by that is just try to maybe understand who that seller is and what they want, what their goals are. Are they 1031ing into another deal that you can maybe help with? What are their interests? Just try to hit more of because at this point, if the market's so competitive, you might have to get a little personal with someone and try to plug on some heartstring and get involved. Or relationships are key right now. So they might have some employees that are dear to them that they're afraid of selling the property and those employees not having a job anymore. So ask them who they recommend on you hiring if you buy the property. And so that person still has a job. There's all kinds of little things I think to do and take advantage of right now to just basically just be compassionate, and maybe that can kind of help place your offer.
That's really powerful. Because at the end of the day, real estate's all about people. You're buying real estate, but you're buying it from someone.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you can
And they
get
have goals, and most of the time in real estate, it's not a retirement. Most of the time, it's not like, hey, I'm selling this and I'm done. They have some goal to what they want next. And if you can somehow figure out what that is, or it might help you out a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's some things that you've seen people do, like what I was talking about earlier on the back end, after they close a deal and they're having to get creative on streamlining expenses and figuring out what they're going to do with the property management and the payment structure of that and payroll? And what's some creative things you've seen people do on that end that maybe the listeners could get out of that and something that they could do with one of their deals?
I mean, you touched on water conservation. That's a big one. I think a lot of people are starting to know that, and brokers are kind of marketing that at this point, especially if it's a listed deal. They'll tell you if that's a value add opportunity or not. A big one on our recent Houston stuff was LED lighting. One of the properties is over 550 units, and it's built in the 70s. And someone came in and did the math, and they replaced all the interior lighting to LED. It cut electricity costs by 35%.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was something you would think would be, I guess common or something, but I'd never heard anyone doing that yet. I've never seen it be at that big of a number, if that makes sense. That was a huge saving aspect of it. That was creative. I've seen people get involved with solar panels lately, or combining solar panels and covered parking in one. So it's like, let's get the tenants to kind of help pay for the solar panels, basically be the roof of the covered parking is the solar panels. So I've seen that. That was a pretty creative way. Another big thing I've seen, I wouldn't say expense wise it maybe helps, but it's a cool value add thing for the tenants, is a lot of people with everyone working from home lately. I've seen more and more apartments doing, I wouldn't say daycare centers isn't the right word, but like after child programs or something like that. Like they'll create an amenity that way to help their tenants out. That seems to be pretty popular lately. We have a property that had that, and then I've been hearing more and more child daycare centers being added into apartment complexes. So I feel like there's always a way to add value. That's kind of a joke as a broker is, someone will call and be like, I want a value add property. It's like, I think every property you can add value to it. It's just how much. There's all kinds of things you can do.
Who wants to buy a subpar property? They're going to pay way more for it and be able to add like no value. Like who wants that? Have you ever had anyone come to you and say, I want a really crappy deal? Send me that.
I've had, not in those words, but everyone tries to say leave meat on the bone for the next buyer. And I'm dealing with some stuff right now that's pretty much fully maxed out. And there are some buyers that fits, right? And then maybe they just want somewhere to place their money and cash flow. They're tired of renovating, and maybe they're tired kind of towards the end of their real estate careers or whatnot, and just honestly just need somewhere to put their money. But I get what you're saying. And if you completely max out a property, then where are you expecting how's the next buyer going to be excited for it?
Right. Well, cool. Well, hey, as we wind down here and get ready to go into the last two segments, I have another question that I feel like a lot of people throughout this process and throughout COVID and all the craziness and all the new competition, they're seeing it as a negative. They're seeing it as, oh, well, now there's all this competition. Should I even really get into the space? Should we even be buying? Now, I heard a lot of people in 2020 that said we didn't buy anything. And they already had 1,200, 2,000, 4,000 units. Like we didn't buy anything. Nothing? Feel like you would have bought something like the opportunities were there, but all these people were seeing negatives and just, I guess, weren't seeing the opportunities that were there. So in your personal opinion, how do you believe that investors can benefit in the long run from this new ever evolving market and this new competitive market that we're seeing now?
That's a good question. It's tough. I mean, because you're in the Sun Belt, we're in Texas, and our market's a little different. Everyone says real estate's cyclical, but it's tough because I don't see the Sun Belt slowing down at all anytime soon. I think people from the Northeast, California, and some of these, like we talked about, just the political environment states that aren't really allowing real estate investors to thrive, they're flooding these markets. And yes, it's making it harder for someone new to get in, but I don't see them being a limit to where it's going to go. So, just because you're getting in at a hard time or a competitive time or prices are high, I think prices are going to keep getting higher, right? So, You might not be buying at the lowest point in the market like you're supposed to with stocks, but it's just going to keep growing, I think. And I think I'm very optimistic about it. And especially in the multifamily space, I don't see that going anywhere. That's one reason why I chose to be a multifamily broker. I think that's one of the most stable assets out there. It's just, I don't think it's going to be affected. And I think the long term would be just fine as long as you can get in and create the right relationships and partnerships. And I think that might be huge, is you might just have to split up the partnerships with more GPs than you really want. You might have to take less of the pie just to kind of combine with some people, make your team stronger, bigger, and tackle some stuff right now.
Right. Yeah. Just get in. Just start doing something. Don't think that the sky is falling and that you're buying at the peak. And just jump in, partner with someone that knows what they're doing and that's somewhat familiar with what the heck's going on.
Yep. I don't see multifamily going anywhere. I really don't.
And then to add to the benefit of what I personally am seeing in this changing market is a little bit of what I touched on earlier with people are actually having to operate now. I mean, I think it's really going to sharpen everyone's axe as far as being able to be a really great operator and see what maybe needs to happen to a lot of these deals or a lot of the deals that they have currently or that they're buying and how they can better change and streamline expenses. And I think it's going to make a lot of multifamily syndicators that are good even better. And then the ones that maybe aren't so good, that maybe don't care to get good or just, I don't know, like it's going to kind of weed out some of the other people in the multifamily space that maybe shouldn't be in the multifamily space.
It's a hands-on business. It really is. If you're a sponsor of a deal, you can passively invest and you create the cash flow, lifestyle environment that you need to, but it is a hands-on deal for a sponsor. And I think the more hands-on that you are, the better performance that you're going to have. And I think having relationships with as many vendors as possible is needed. A lot of people used to, like you said, would hire that property management company and let them run all the vendors. But, as an operator, I think you're going to need that trash vendor, the management vendor, the broker, anything that you can think of, the solar panel guy, the pest guy, like as many relationships as you can find will help you in the long run.
So Tyler, where are you headed in the future? And then how do you think the audience can help you get there?
I mean, as of right now, like I said, I've been a broker for 2 years. We're only 2 months into 2021. We have 1,000 units under contract. My goal is to be pretty much the number one producing broker in the state of Texas, which is going to be really hard to do, but I'm on track to do it at this point. I need to keep it up. So my immediate goal is to help as many people like you guys find deals. And so it helps me even know if you guys look at a deal off market and don't like it, help the seller out and maybe put a broker in touch with that person. Say, hey, I didn't like your deal, but here, talk to this guy. He'll be able to find you someone that does or something. That helps. And then, like I said, my ultimate goal is, I want to be a part of deals in the future too. So on the passive side and maybe even on the GP general partnership side. So I'd love to see what other deals you guys are working on as well.
Love it. All right. Well, hey, we're going to go ahead and transition now into the next segment of the show called the Pod Decks segment. I don't know if you ever heard of Pod Decks, but it's a company that makes gazillions of different decks of cards with questions on the back. So this is basically going to be like, shuffle the deck. And I'm just going to be scrolling through here and you have to be like, pick a card, any card. We're going to pick two and then whatever the heck questions on the back, that's what we're going to ask.
Awesome.
So tell me when to stop.
Stop. And stop.
Okay. First question. Do you have any systems or processes for decision making, learning, and execution?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, time management, I guess. I mean, I have my own little unique things that I help makes me decisions. And I guess that'd be almost like meditation, I guess. I spend 15 minutes a day in a sauna and dead silence thinking about high priority ideas, and it helps me. And then I basically pick what I need to do that day and roll with it. I guess that would be an internal system, I guess. But
yeah, a sauna. How do you deal with that, man? Saunas are so hot.
Especially in Texas, but I'm very hot natured. I could live in Texas, Phoenix. I'm not a cold person at all. So, but It's a good quiet place. I guess that's where that comes from.
Yeah. Well, cool. Okay. Next question. What do you think is the biggest violation of privacy?
Going through someone's phone, I guess. Phone nowadays, that's pretty much everything. My good next business ideas in there. I can't be having anyone getting those.
Right. I'm the exact same way. I think of something and I write it down real quick on my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Could be the next $1 billion idea in there somewhere.
Okay, you never know. Steal my patents.
Oh my goodness. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and transition to the last segment of the show called the Core Four, which is the same 4 questions we ask every guest. First question is, what is your favorite real estate related book?
Classic, but probably the Rich Dad Poor Dad by Kiyosaki. And then on the brokerage side, I've really enjoyed Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Negotiation book's really good. It's not really real estate, but it helps in this business a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I listened to his podcast that he had on Bigger Pockets, and I bought the book the very next day and read it in like a couple of days. I was like,
that's good.
This is amazing.
Yeah, it's good. It's like educational, but it was like fun. And I'm not a big reader, but that was a fun, he had cool stories.
Yeah, definitely. And it was he was like the #1 FBI negotiator for like the anti-terrorist network or something.
Yep.
Yeah, super cool. Okay, next question. What do you think your unique skill is that helped you become successful?
Creativity, I guess. My generation, we grew up in this social media era that's really important right now, and I've helped create and brand a few different products, whether it's a brewery or an athletic wear company, and with logos and stuff, and that helps me. I think kind of we touched earlier, it just helps me add value to multifamily owners, that it's not really a part of brokerage, right? But it's something that I can maybe help design a logo, help to create a video for them or that type of aspect, and then hopefully get the business later on.
Yeah, love it. Tell me something that's true about real estate that almost nobody agrees with you on.
I saw you sent this one to me and I was thinking about it, and this one's it's a little contradicting the multifamily spot, but I'm going to go with the price per door on a deal does not matter at all.
Does not matter. Now, why is that?
Why is that? Because if the deal has, if the cap rate's good, if the returns are good and the financials are strong, the price per door really just doesn't matter. What I mean by that is you can buy something at a very high price per door, but if it's getting the returns that you want, who really cares? Especially in this competitive market. And prices keep going up. Inflation's strong right now. The values are going to keep going up. And, that might be very market specific, right? I can't say price per door doesn't matter in LA or New York City right now when values are going down. But in the Sunbelt market, when things are going up, I don't think it matters for the typical 3 to 5 year hold.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you there. Because a lot of people get stuck on cap rates and the price per door, and they're like, well, if it's not a 6 or 7 cap, then you could forget about it. It's like, well, I'll look at it, and if it's a 2 cap and I'm tripling my investors' money in 5 years, then I'm going to buy it.
Exactly. You don't know what kind of value adds there. People are too quick to shoot down a deal. And that's the biggest one that we get is, what's the price per door? And I'll tell them. They won't even ask the square footage. Something might be $100,000 a door, but the average square foot be 1,400 square foot. When across the street be 90,000 a door, but the square footage is 700. They don't even ask how big the units are. So to me, that question, it doesn't even make sense in it.
I love that. Okay. What one piece of advice would you give to our listeners wanting to succeed in real estate investing?
Pick up the phone right now as much as you can, I guess. Being a broker, cold calling, to be honest, I don't like cold calling. I don't like it. And that's my job. And you got to pick up the phone and have the relationships right now. In-person networking is not happening. Set an exact amount of calls that you want to make, whether it's to lenders, to brokers, to current owners, to passive investors, to just get on the phone and talk to people, I guess.
Right. Get out there and be active.
Yes.
Okay. Tyler, if anybody wants to learn more about you and your business, how can people get in touch with you?
Email's easy, Tyler, Tyler @crefirm.com. And then that's our website as well, crefirm.com. We're rebuilding it right now. Our listings and stuff will be on there. And a little about me is on there as well. So that'd be the best way.
Love it, man. Hey, well, I really appreciate you coming out on the show because
thanks for having me.
You told me about solar panels and LED lights now. So now I've got the wheels spinning. So if I've got wheels spinning, I'm sure everyone else in the audience has learned a ton from this. So thank you very much for coming out on the show with us.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right. What a show, guys. I feel like I learned even more. I know I mentioned at the end the LEDs and the solar panels. I've considered solar panels at one point, but never really put enough thought into it to really dive in and actually get quotes on how much installing solar panels is going to cost and that kind of thing. But with this competitive market and the way prices are continuing to rise, it's looking like any creative strategy you can possibly do to really increase your NOI, decrease those expenses, you really should be considering like all options. So I am going to make it a point to call some solar panel companies and see how much it actually is to get those installed and see if that's even a thing down here in Alabama. I don't know. He's over there in Texas. But anyhow, really hope you guys got a ton out of today's episode. It was extremely impactful and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So that's all I got, guys. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe. Please leave a rating and review. It would be very much appreciated. And it'll help others to get to see and hear this show. Speaking of see the show, check out our YouTube channel. We've got a new YouTube channel that we launched a couple months ago that is the video version of all of our podcast episodes. So if you just really like watching people's face, if you really want to see kind of how we're like body language, then by all means check out our YouTube channel, subscribe to that too. Let us know, give us a thumbs up, let us know if you're actually enjoying that stuff or if we need to tweak some things. And feel free to reach out to me if you guys know of anyone wanting to be on the show. If you want to be on the show, if you've got a show you think I can add significant value to, feel free to reach out to me and let me know. And I'd love to get you on the show. I'd love to be on your show. I'm trying to be on 50 different podcasts this year. I've already been on 9 so far. So I've got some more to go, and hit me up. And also, feel free to reach out to me if you have any topics of conversation that you'd like to hear about. If you're really interested in learning more about cost segs or about how to handle property managers or how to find good property managers or how to buy multifamily, how to wholesale a deal, let me know. I'd love to get those people on. I'd love to be able to provide as much value to you guys and myself as well. I'm always trying to learn new things too. I feel like every time I do a show, I'm learning something new. So let me know what you guys are wanting to hear. I'd love to incorporate those things. And that's all I got, guys. So this is Josh Ferrari signing off.